Good morning. Peace and blessings and happy Wednesday. How's everybody doing today? Wednesday is the day that is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is currently at the fifth degree of Taurus. And guess what? I did not go check to see what the fifth degree was, so I'm going to do that now. The fifth degree is the degree of extension. Ah, what a great degree. Okay. So, Mercury is our mind, it's our ability to perceive reality. And this ability of perception is the key to our planetary experience. It's the key to everything we experience. Our perception is really activated when we're young, from 0 to 7. You are born into an environment, you are a clear, open space, like you have a soul and a spirit, but you don't have any earthly experience here. And then your perception becomes the environment you're in, right? So for me, like I remember when I was little, my father and our fathers are, or the masculine, right, are very influential in our perception because there's something about their genetics, the genetics of a man that really has profound impact. Not that the mother doesn't have impact because she was the conduit by which you come to the planet. But when you get here, your father is really key to the creation of your perception. And because the father rules the masculine. This 3D reality is the masculine. The internal reality that you come from with your mother is the feminine. It's internal. A woman's power is in her body. She can build things in her body. A man's power is in his physical might. He can build things in this physical world. Not to say that we can't, that a woman can't build. Of course, a woman can build something, but she builds more effectively inside of herself. And so then by the time it comes out, it has already been created from within. And so that is the feminine. The masculine is the energy that creates, that builds on the external reality. So the thing that I want us to really understand is that our perception is usually formed, but it's not fixed by the time we are 3 or 4 years old. And that energy comes from the environment that we were in. So, for instance, like my father used to always talk about white people this, and white people that, and white people, white people, they're this, they're evil, they're. And so, as a child, I had never seen any white people, with the exception of probably on television. But at that time, the world that we lived in wasn't like it is now. So I just heard my father talking about the boogeyman, the people who were out to get him and us. And so he created inside of me a perception that Black people were not safe in the world because of white people. So this became something that lived inside of me that I then went out to meet in the world because of the perception that I was given from my father. Um, Now, this is my experience, but you can think about your own perception. Where did your beliefs come from? Did your family take you to church? Did were your parents kind to one another, in love with one another, protective of one another? Were your parents angry with one another, at war with one another, and adversarial with one another? These are the things that form our perception. Did you have a lot of resources? Did you have a small amount of resources? These are the things that form our perception. These are the things that give us the sense of feeling worthy or feeling scarcity. These are the things that give us the experience of love and safety or fear and insecurity. Your perception is anchored in your childhood experiences. And until we can really understand that, we will go out and recreate the experiences that we experience in our childhood over and over and over again because it's a pattern. It becomes a pattern in the mind. It becomes a pattern in the way you think. It becomes a pattern in the way you move through the world. And so until you understand that, then you can actually change that pattern. That pattern isn't stuck. Nothing here is stuck, with the exception of, your biology. And even if people attempt to change their biology, they're still who and what they are. Because when you die and your skeleton is available, then, archaeology. So, say somebody changes their sex and then they die, and then an archaeologist brings up their body 300 years from now. Whatever their original sex was will show, but whatever they change their sex to will not, because who we are is who we are, um, in our biological way. So back to Mercury. I'm all over the place today. I have to say that's interesting. So Mercury at the fifth degree of Taurus. Taurus is the energy of your senses, your taste, touch, hearing, sight. All of that is also formed when you are really young, because you begin to, like I said, take on your environment. So you learn what foods you like, you learn what feels good, what feels bad, you learn, what sounds, music, all of that stuff is formed when you're very young, and that informs your perception. It informs how you will move through the world, how you think about yourself, how you feel about yourself. So I know when I was young, I used to love the Jackson 5 because I had an auntie who was 8 years older than me who played the Jackson 5 all the time, and the Silvers. And so all of these Black soul groups were really popular, and that informed my sensibilities, my experience of art and rhythm. And I lived in a house where there was jazz and there was Christian music and there was a lot of music. And my grandmother used to have me read poetry. All of that formed my sensibilities. So Mercury in Taurus is a very highly creative energy. But these energies are subtle because, which, and when I say subtle, I mean they happen to you almost. Like you don't recognize that things are influencing you in these subtle ways, and they are. So it's like, being in a store and they're playing music, that would encourage you to shop. You might not even really hear the music, but they've played something that is going to move you into feeling good about spending your money. This is subtle power. This is how it is, right? And so what we want to begin to do is begin to wake up inside of our experience so that we can recognize the subtle energy, so that we become sensitive enough to recognize your subtle energies and powers. And I mean, this is not a small task. It really isn't. I don't want to suggest that it is, but one of the things that I do to sensitize myself is I will track my breath. I will track what it feels like to have the breath coming in and out of my nostrils, because you want to become really sensitive. Or I will sit in stillness and see if I can feel the energy, the feeling of my heart beating by doing nothing. Just really connecting to the energy of the heart chakra. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes I can just bring my energy to my heart and witness my heart beginning to respond and speeding up and starting to beat faster because I put attention on it. It's also being able to recognize the feelings and the sensations in your body and just recognize them. You don't have to make meaning of them, but what you're doing is making yourself more sensitive, because this is key to the creative process. This is key to being able to to being able to harness your relationship with your higher self, being able to listen and take guidance and understand what's coming into you. This is, people who do readings and people who, channel all those sort of things. They have the capacity to hear what no one else is hearing. Animals are very sensitive this way. I have these cats now, and I noticed one of the things I made a post the other day about how my cats will chase a fly through the house and catch it in midstream, midair, because they are highly sensitive. They are highly tuned into the environment and they're following energy, right? Animals, whenever there is a big storm, you will see that the animals know how to go to higher ground because they are sensitive enough to the energies and the directions. They can detect things that are coming that are not there yet. And we all have this ability if we train ourselves to it. And the reason we want to train ourselves to it is because at this time on the planet, we have the capacity and the ability to create any reality we desire. We can have whatever it is we want, especially if our hearts are open and anchored in love. You can also have whatever you want if your heart is closed and anchored in fear. It doesn't matter. But really, if your heart is anchored in love, then the universe, let me just say this, the universe can work through whatever, because we've seen it. We've seen Hitlers in our time. We've seen all sorts of things. But here's the thing that I want us to know. Even as human beings, when we think something is wrong, all things serve their purpose. Nothing is a mistake. It's all happening because it's necessary for some reason. And when we are tapped into the divine, we can access the understanding of why things are needed. But as human beings, we are here to evolve in this earth realm. And so when things happen that we think are undesirable or bad or wrong, that's our egoic understanding. But the soul and the spirit, if you cultivate a relationship with your soul and your spirit, then you can understand that everything is serving some greater purpose. It all has some deeper meaning that is supporting us in our evolutionary process. It's just as simple as that. Now, we don't have to like it. I experience tons of shit that I don't like. I really do. I experience tons of shit that I don't like and that I don't prefer. Like I wish that I wasn't having to do it. Like I spent countless times in this Black woman's body, in a Black woman's body, not liking it, not feeling safe, not feeling or thinking that there was value to this experience. But the universe uses everything. It throws nothing away, and everything will serve your greater becoming. Now, here's the thing about Mercury. Mercury is the ability to speak and perceive the reality that you are in or that you desire to create. And so, with Mercury and Taurus at the fifth degree, which is the degree of extension, you can be sure that the things that you are focused on most, the energy, the places where you are putting most of your energy, the places wherever your attention is where the energy will flow. And so whatever you are putting your attention on in with Mercury and Taurus, Taurus governs the earth realm. Taurus governs money. It governs our senses. It's ruled by Venus. And that is our relationships. So our relationship, most most formidably, our relationship with ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, how you think about yourself. What do you think you are? What do you think about who you are showing up in? What are you thinking about it? Are you feeling good about yourself? Do you feel whole? Do you feel like you are worthy? Do you feel like you are enough? Do you feel like you have value? All of this is Mercury and Taurus. And if you do not, I encourage you to do some rituals that will boost your confidence. The sun is in Aries. Aries is about facing your fears. So, what are some of the fears you have going on that you want to begin to neutralize? What are some of the things that you have that around your karma that might be tripping you up that you now can begin to reorganize? I know for a long time for myself, I just didn't really believe that I could create the world that I wanted, that and I didn't believe it because of the world that I was in. So sometimes we have to stop looking at the world. We have to stop looking at what's going on, because what's going on can trip you up and um, and handicap your confidence, handicap your self-esteem, move you into greater experiences of fear. And that means that you need to turn that shit off, okay? So that you can actually get committed to what you were born to do and what you are here for. And sometimes if we're looking outside of ourselves, everything just seems like it's horrible, it's doomed, we're not going to make it. So you got to turn that shit off so that you can really become loyal and committed to your own experience. In the last year or so, last 2 years, I have ended all of my most significant relationships that I had. And the reason that I ended them is because I was draining my energy by being in relationships with my with others who who didn't believe the things that I said I believed. And when the rubber hit the road, I had to ask myself, am I more interested in this relationship with this person or these people than I am in my relationship with myself, my purpose, and the dreams that I have come here to fulfill? And so when those relationships started competing with my true identity, with my authentic nature, I had to decide who stays and who goes. And if I was like, if I'm going to fulfill what I came to this earth realm to fulfill upon, then these relationships can't be primary connections for me. They have to go. And that was not an easy thing to do. It was not even a desirable thing to do. But what I know that I desire more is the energy and the power to build the reality that I came to build. And guess what? I let those people go. And then more people came who are aligned with the vision and the dream that I am cultivating. And they are cultivating a version of that within their own consciousness. And so now I am more, what is that? There's this Bible verse that says, to be evenly yoked, right? Now, let me say, we always associate that with love relationships, but this is not just about romantic relationships. We need to be evenly yoked within our commitment to ourselves, our commitment and devotion to becoming who we are here to be as divine beings, as the embodiment of God consciousness. And so when you are committed to it, then the people in your life who aren't as committed, and there's nothing wrong with them. Like in our culture, we call them haters, and that's not it at all. It's literally an energetic frequency. And we either connect and we have affinity or we don't. It's as simple as that. It's not because anybody's bad or anybody's wrong. It is or it's not. And if you are devoted to the fulfillment of your own potential and power, to align yourself with someone who does not have affinity with you and your vision and your dream, is to drain your energy and give your power away in ways that will not ultimately get you to where you desire to be. And so you alone have to be married married to yourself, to your commitment, to your potential, to your power. No one else can do that but you, and no one can do it for you. But when you are really aligned with yourself, the universe will certainly bring in others who have similar alignments where you can walk the path together. But first and foremost, it requires that you become sensitive enough to feel, hear, know, sense if the connections are aligned or not. You've got to tell yourself the truth if the connections are aligned or not. I remember when I was releasing one of my most significant relationships of all of my life, I literally started hearing myself say, huh, I don't know if I want to use this title in this friendship anymore. I just started hearing myself say, why am I 50 something years old calling someone this title in my life? Because the title was starting to drain the energy. Like the title meant you have to show up in this certain way. And I started to realize that I don't know if showing up in this certain way in this relationship is actually serving me any longer. Not because they were a bad person, they were an amazing person. They're an amazing person. But was it serving me for where I'm going? For what it is that I'm up to, for what it is it's going to take for me to fulfill my potential and power. But I could sense it in the field. I could sense that there was an unraveling happening. So much so that I actually went to the person and said, I think we need to talk about this. Something is happening that I'm not sure is going to keep us in the same way we've been functioning for the last 30 years. And I could feel it coming down the pipeline, right? So we've got to make ourselves sensitive enough to be able to tell ourselves the truth about what we're really experiencing so that we can begin to create a new perceived reality. Remember, Mercury is about your perception, and Taurus is about your senses. These are very ephemeral energies. These are energies that can collapse in an instant if we are not willing to be true to them. These are energies and gifts and potentials and powers that are extraordinarily subtle. And the subtle energy, the subtle power is the most authentic power there is. But if you do not cultivate it correctly, you will pay the cost in the long term. I remember when I was married, I used to, like, I've always believed in metaphysics and always thought that, life was supposed to be magical and all of those sort of things. Even as I was in experiences that were very painful and heartbreaking and discouraging, I still believe like this is supposed to be some magical shit, right? I really believed it. And when I was married to someone who just didn't see the world in the same way that I did. And there was nothing wrong with the way that they saw the world, but it didn't serve the way I saw the world. And so soon, because they saw the world different than I saw it, soon I took on their patterns. I started doing things the way they were doing them. And soon I was further and further away from my desires, from my gifts, from where I was going because I had aligned myself with someone who had a different perception than I did. And I had aligned myself with them in a very intimate way. Not so long ago, I was having a conversation with my ex, and he said to me, you used to look at me, you would say things, and then you would look to me for affirmation to affirm it. And I know that I did that, and he never affirmed it. And soon I was sad and depressed, and we were at odds with one another because I wasn't anchored in my own truth enough that I didn't need his agreement. I still needed his agreement. And so you have to know where you are in your process, in your own human journey. Are you strong enough where you can stand around people who don't believe what you believe and don't feel what you feel and still be true in your own conviction? Or are you young in your conviction and you need to be either alone or with people who actually are in agreement with you? This is what I'm talking about, subtle energy and subtle power. And so get clear about where you are. Get clear about where you are in your process, in your evolution, in your journey. Get clear about if you are committed to what your purpose here is on this earth realm and what your function is and what you are to do. And if you are not clear and you're just feeling it a little bit and it's something you feel kind of, if you're not clear, then don't align yourself with people who are anchored in something that is not true to you, because you will lose your footing. You will not be able to maintain your practices and your powers and your beliefs in the way that you want them to be. So in that way, spend time alone. Spend time with one or two people who actually can support you in building your energetic body and your commitment and your perception to yourself and your vision until you are strong. And when you are strong, then you can bring yourself to the connection and the relationships with others who are doing things in a different way than you. But initially, keep yourself secluded and with others who, because this energy is very subtle, it is very soft, it is very delicate, and it needs nurturing and care and protection so that you won't lose the momentum that you're beginning to get right now. All right, you all. Peace and blessings. I am the Moon Mama. The moon is in Virgo. The moon is in Virgo, and the Virgo moon is the ability to integrate, to be able to say, this stays and this goes. This is good and this is not. This works for me and this does not. The more you can do that, the more you begin to protect your own energy so that you can grow yourself into a new way of being. Peace and blessings, everyone. I love you guys. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.